Good morning, folks. This is Judy at Green Pastures Farm. Welcome to our channel, Judy Regenerative Rancher. This morning's topic is shade, silvopasture environments, and how to get trees actually getting started in your pastures. This is, I guess you would call this nature's way. These trees are out in the middle of this is the old Clover field from many years ago. It was all soybean, and over the years we whipped the cockleburs, and now we have this beautiful stand of grass out here. But I came out here it's 4 years ago in the spring, and the cattle were coming in this pasture, and it was probably, I don't know, at that time 10-11 inches tall, and I noticed that the squirrels had buried these walnuts, and these trees were coming up, and they were just little bitty guys. They were probably around 8 inches tall, maybe not even that tall, 6 inches. And I saw them all through here, and I'm like, you know, if I turn the cows in there without protecting those trees, they're going to be gone. They'll either bust them off, step on them. They might, being that young, they'd eat them. And so what I did is I went and got a cattle panel. Those are 48-inch cattle panels. And I took bolt cutters, and I cut them. I cut them in thirds. Okay, so each side, these are triangular shaped, and I just put a steel post at each corner. Very, very cow-proof. Okay, cows are not going to get through that. They're not going to bust that tree off, and they will. They'll rub on them and bust them off. But this one here, I've got 10 of them. It's got a pretty nice trunk started in there. Okay. I'm going to leave that cage on there at least probably another 5 years and let that thing really get a good start. And then I'll take the cage down and let the cattle start grazing right up to the trunk. But what I did when I started, folks, and there were such little trees, to knock the fescue back, I went and got square bales of hay, and I took real thick clumps of hay, and I put it inside that cage, probably almost a foot deep. And that suffocated the grass, and so that little baby tree didn't have to compete with all the grass for moisture, sunlight, and stuff like that. Anyway, we've got 10 of them here now, and we got a nice little walnut savannah started here. And I love walnut trees. Between them and white oak, those are considered the two money trees in Missouri as far as lumber grade. And with black walnut, you also get the nuts. You know, you can crack those in the fall and put nuts in your candies or cookies or whatever, black walnuts. There's people actually buy black walnuts. And yeah, so there's nothing wrong with a walnut tree for shade, and then you get the added benefit of the nuts. So the squirrels planted these, I didn't. And I think that's a good way of keep your eyes out for trees that are coming up on your property. It might be an oak tree, it might be a hickory, a white oak, whatever. Protect them. And it does take one cattle panel, and it takes 3 steel posts. If you don't use those 48-inch cattle panels, those cows will reach in there and they'll eat that tree. Especially if it's an oak, they'll eat all the leaves off an oak. Doesn't seem like they eat the walnut as bad, which is good. They haven't ate any of the leaves off these trees, but they would certainly bust all these trees over. This one is protected. I probably need to come in here again and mulch these. Wood chips. Wood chips probably would have been a better alternative to mulch with. I didn't have any wood chips. I used what I had. I had hay, and that's what I used. So I probably need to come in here and remulch those again, knock that grass down. I know a lot of the commercial guys, you know, they'll spray around the trees and kill all the vegetation around the trunk. Well, we're grazers. We need green plants. You can't make a living with bare soil. So I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to spray anything. I hate spray. I saw a guy yesterday as I was coming back to the house, and he was on a tractor, And he had a 3-point hitch on the back of his tractor with this great big spray tub on the back of it. It must have had 300, 400 gallons in it. And as I drove by, the wind was blowing out of the south. He was spraying into the wind, driving along a fence row, and you could smell the glyphosate. I mean, he was in shorts, and he had a short sleeve shirt on, and no hat. And I mean that, well, you know, he listened to too many, oh, it's safe, glyphosate's safe, you can drink it. That guy was covered in it, absolutely covered in glyphosate, and you know, just spraying, no concern in the world. And it's like, man, you couldn't pay me to do that. Don't get that stuff on you, folks. It's not good for your body. Anything that kills, and I mean, it does a great job of killing stuff. What do you think it's doing to your body? You think you're immune to it? Not. Keep it off of you. It's not good. It's absolutely not good. So, I like the way these trees are growing, though. I mean, it's just nuts. All the different plants we're getting out here. This is one that I'm a little bit concerned with. Our cattle don't seem to eat it. And it was brought in through bird seed. And I just want to make you all aware of it. Well, there's one growing inside that plant, right inside there. That's called Teasel. See that? It looks a little bit like a Canadian thistle when it blooms. That one doesn't have any blooms on it yet. But they sold bird seed here all through the Midwest, probably nationwide. It had Teasel seed in it. Of course, the birds ate the Teasel seed and spread it. I'm not even sure where Teasel came from, but I'm telling you what, it doesn't have any predators. And it's starting to come into our pastures, and I don't know, a goat might eat that. I don't know about sheep. We'll find out. I'd like to see if sheep will eat that, but it's pretty thorny. It's got some nasty little, ouch. It's got some nasty little pricklies on it. Not as bad as Canadian thistle, but it's close. See the little thorns on the side? But it's called Teasel. Teasel. You can Google it. It's I know the Missouri Conservation Department's extremely concerned about it. It's taken over a lot of their land, and you see it along the roads. If you're driving down the highway, it's just thick on the roadsides now. And I don't know. It's a very, very invasive plant. You can see it there. It's almost, well, look how tall it gets. That plant there is 7 feet. So it's got tons of seed in there. And so I'm gonna go get my loppers and whack that dude. It's sitting in there protected in that cage. Probably spread by a bird, you know, from some bird seed somewhere. But anyway, I want to make you all aware of that. A lot of people don't even know what it is. I had a landowner that was here, and he'd never heard of it. And I showed it to him. It was on his farm, and it was funny. There was, I think, 3 plants in a draw I showed him, and I didn't think anything more of it. And I left, and he went and got his loppers, and he went and cut those 3. He didn't want that stuff getting started. But here's one that got broke off. They didn't eat it. They just broke it off. Oh, here's the seed head, right here. There it is. See it? It looks like Canadian thistle. This kind of got a purple blossom on it, almost pinkish. But yeah. So we've got that new one to deal with. So anyway, that's the way it is. Here on the farm, you're going to have plants that come in and make a home there. You know, if you get your stocking density up, a lot of that stuff will get trampled on the ground. If you get an infestation of it, like that cocklebur experiment we did this week, you can really crank your density up. And the animals will just absolutely hammer it on the ground. Then what's left, you can go in there and clip it if you want. Chop it up, make sure you don't get too low. You don't want to be chopping up all your grass, but you can really put the hammer on it. But I wanted to show you, this is our fall seeding time. And so we've got a lot of good hard seed on our clover. That's just one clump, folks. There must be 100 seed heads right there. And each one of those has anywhere from 10, I think my record that I've counted is 42. 42 seeds in one seed head. Okay, so you should never have to plant red clover if you graze correctly. If you give it enough recovery period in the summer to let it put on a good hard seed, you're not going to have to put down any seed. It's going to be there every year. We haven't put down any red clover seed since we switched to mob grazing in 2006. And that's a huge cost savings. I mean, price clover seed today, it's expensive. And to get anything to come up, you need to put down a minimum of 3 pounds. And most of the people that sell it recommend, 4, 5, 6 pounds an acre. Well, folks, it gets into your pocketbook pretty quick. So with good grazing management, giving good recovery periods, you should never, ever have to sell clover seed again. Just let nature do it for you. Let the cows trample it. They'll eat that. They'll deposit it in their manure all over your farm, and there's your seed bank for the next year. I mean, it's just thick in here. Look at that. I mean, it's just thick. And this is what we've already grazed. Okay, so the cows won't be back here for 60 days, and all this seed's going to be very, very mature by then, and the cows will trample that again on the ground, and voila, you've got your seed bank back for next year. So that's pretty cool. So with that, I'm going to sign off a little bit. Here in a little bit, you'll keep an eye on your pastures for those trees, especially in the springtime. Take the time to protect a few of those. Get you some cattle panels and steel posts. In a few years, you'll have trees that look like this. And see, these trees are starting to throw out shade. And on a hot day, if you got a walnut savannah out in the middle of your field, those cows are going to thank you for that. Gives them a nice place to get out of the sun. So with that, I'm going to sign off, everyone. And on the way out, hit that subscribe button and the like if you would. I appreciate it. And we're going to see you all down the road.